Everyone keeps saying to stop saying survivor, say I'm a warrior, whatever. Like, so I was trafficked through the adult film industry, the porn industry here. And I was owned by a man named Derek Hayes of LA Direct Models. He trafficked me through the elite of Hollywood and global politicians, including George Soros and Joe Biden. So those are two of the big ones. I've spoken out against other actors, but we're talking about the politicians here. So we'll just focus on those two at this point in time.
So anyway, so you were involved in a tribunal. Mm-hmm. And could you talk a little bit about that? Because apparently that was in the White House, was it not?
I can't say the location of where I was because I'm under a gag order, but there, yes, I did get subpoenaed to go testify in these tribunals. I testified over 100 times against the elite and globalists. Some I've spoken out against, some, again, I can't speak of because I'm under a gag order, and there still are arrests that are happening at this point in time. So yes. What do you want to know?
Okay, just tell me a little bit about the tribunal. Well, what you can, what it involved, and you know who was there, and what your role was exactly.
Sure. So I actually got, so I'm suing my traffickers. I had filed lawsuits against my traffickers. So I have an attorney. My attorney had called me and said, you got a subpoena, but we need to meet. So I didn't know what that meant. So like, okay. So I went and met with her, and she's like, this is not your normal subpoena. It's a military subpoena. I'm like, what? I don't understand. She's like, well, this is you have to go testify in a military court. And I said, I don't understand. I'm not military. Why would I have to do that? I was very confused, right, of why I'm going to go testify. She said, well, because your evidence and things have gone into court, you need to go testify in their criminal case, and they've been arrested by the military, or they're under trial in the military. So I go, okay, I will go. And at first I didn't want to, because again, I'm putting myself at risk by going and saying this stuff happened to me, putting myself at extreme risk. So I said, fine, I'm going to go. I went a couple times. I mean, I was going back and forth to DC multiple times. I'm like, listen, I just need to go where I do bust out all the tribunals at once, because this is exhausting. And, you know, I do have a life and job and kids, and like, let's go. So I went out, testified over 100 times against multiple people, one of which who was Joe Biden. He was the very last person that I testified against. You know, it's hard to make, like, let me just say this before I kind of get into all of it, is going and making that choice wasn't a choice about me. I've forgiven my traffickers. I've forgiven what has happened to me. But this to me I either serve my country and love my country so much that I'm going to go sit on a stand and put myself at risk so my children and my children's children can have a better future. And so to me, it was a calling that I had to go do, as hard as it was. So when we did the tribunals, and Claire and I had talked about this a couple of times, Joe Biden was there. Well, Joe Biden, right, was there. And he was the last one. And I don't get emotional a lot. I'm not an emotional person. I obviously got emotional at the borders and whatever yesterday or a few days ago with Claire. But Joe, they kept saying identify who he is. But how do you identify someone in a courtroom when it's not, you know that's not him? Like, you seem like you're going crazy, even though you're not crazy. So you're like, okay, I can't point at him. I can't say that that's him, because then I'm creating a treasonous act against the country because I can't identify. So I said to my attorney, I'm not going to identify him, but he is guilty. So what they did is, because I do have evidence of all my rapes and torture, and when I speak out, I don't speak out against anyone that I don't have actual physical evidence against. I don't have any evidence on me whatsoever. All that evidence is across the world and across to different people. But in the court, I said, in the videos, this is who that is, because I wasn't going to identify a man sitting there that looked like him but wasn't him. Then you feel like you're kind of like going a little bit cuckoo, right? You want to ask me?
Let's just ask you about that, because the Biden that we see, we all suspect is wearing a mask and it's an actor. But the Biden that we're seeing on television or on our phones or whatever, so you can have all sorts of CGI and you can have, special effects. But you sat there and looked at that man in the eye. What did that person look like? Did it look like they were wearing a mask? How false or fake or how real did it look?
It looked very real, but he was also like, there are protection orders for any witnesses, right? So I wasn't too close to him. He was in the room. He looked like what we're seeing on the TV, right? He looked like that. I know it was a person because they walked him in. But he looked like what we're seeing. But if you look at like Joe Biden you know, even 10 years ago, it's a completely different person. Even when you get older, yeah, right? Like even when you get older, your face still looks like your face. This Joe Biden doesn't look like.
And your eyes will always look like your eyes, and his eyes are nothing like his eyes.
Exactly. And he's like the one that the Joe Biden before, I believe, and I might get this mixed up, but one was right-handed, the other one is left-handed, and they're signing with different. This Joe Biden is not like, he's signing his executive orders with a different hand than what he did, and he's not, you know, he doesn't never written with both hands, so it's confusing. Like you're like, for me, I'm sitting there, you know how crazy I felt at that moment? Like you're wanting me to point at this person and it's not him. And then I didn't understand, and I don't know if that's because they're going to do the EBS and everything, and that these tribunals are going to be televised or what. I don't know if it was like to show that there was, like, for people that aren't awake yet, to show that this person was arrested or that a person was arrested. But to me, if I pointed to him, I don't know what they're going to do to that person sitting there. Like, are they going to harm that person, or is this just like a show? I know the tribunals weren't a show, but for that particular, does that make sense?
It does. Did he look you in the eye?
So I don't look them in the eye. For me, I don't want to look at them. So it's just a defense mechanism for me. I saw him.
Sure.
But they said, when other people that I had to point to, I looked very quickly, pointed, and I don't engage because they don't have any more power over me. And by having any type of eye contact or anything like that gives them a power over me. And I control that. It's something that I can control. And so I mean, if he was looking at me in the eye, I couldn't answer that question.
And how were you feeling at the time when he came in and you sat there and you knew he was in, this version was there? How were you? What was going through your mind?
You know, and at this point I was so exhausted. I had testified over 100 times at that point. Like, you know, and you got to remember, I'm seeing these videos and pictures and everything. Nothing that I haven't looked at this. This is the first time I'm seeing this stuff so I was trafficked for almost a decade. It's been about 12 years since I've been out. So seeing all of that was traumatizing in itself and triggering. And so when he came out, it was just, that's where I couldn't finish the testimony. We had to go into the next day because I felt confusion, anger. I knew it was almost done. There was like a sigh of relief. There was a lot of emotions that are going through me because I know he's the last one. And it's just like, okay, is this the moment after I'm done testifying that I get my justice? Because I've been called a liar. I've been called hateful. I'm trying to ruin people's lives, all this stuff. But it's like, is this the moment? Like, once this is done, will I get justice? I think that was like the main thing. And that's why one of the reasons too, when he walked out and he wasn't himself, I couldn't finish my testimony because I'm like, is this done? Like, is this the weight that's going to be lifted? Do I get, like, does that make sense? Hopefully it makes sense. From a survivor, you know, you're like this, I just want justice and I want this to be true. I'm here, I'm seeing it, but I need it to be true. I don't want this to be a show. I need it to be true, if that makes sense.
Now, could you, military tribunals are different to normal sort of court cases. Was everyone there military, all in uniforms? Were there any civilians there at all?
The only civilians that I saw were my attorney and myself. And then I do have other friends that have testified, but they were not in the room. So the only civilians there were us, and we were escorted by military. When I went out and flew out there, I was escorted on a military plane. Everything was through the military. Through the U.S. military. From my understanding, they were U.S. military. If they were other, special operations or anything, I couldn't tell you that. I'm sure they wouldn't be able to tell me that.
So how did it go? I mean, were you happy's probably not the word to use, but were you pleased with how the tribunal went? Are you feeling that you're going to get some justice?
I know I'm going to get justice. I know I'm going to get justice. I believe it. I mean, I've seen certain things. I know that there is someone very up high now who will call me and tell me, this is happening. I think that they do that because I'm also very vocal about what has gone on. And so the threat towards me is extremely high because bank accounts have been frozen by George Soros. I mean, these people's accounts, this isn't just like chump change. This is billions of dollars and their livelihood is all frozen because I decided to stand up and say, I mean, really, I'm gonna stand up and say this isn't okay. Because if I don't stand up and I don't testify, what if someone else didn't? Then they get away with it. Then they get away with their crimes.
So what exactly did Joe Biden and George Soros do to you and others?
I mean, I'm not going to talk about what they did to others when they were with me, because I just don't think that's fair to them, because if they're not speaking out. But as far as me, I mean, I was trafficked. I mean, they raped me, they beat me, they tortured me. I mean, and again, I was trafficked for almost a decade. So, I mean, I was chained to beds, I was chained to walls. I mean, I was chained to concrete floors. You know, they waterboard me. I mean, there was a lot of different things that they did that 1%. There's certain things I don't even talk about, because I don't think that people would even can comprehend that someone can go through that. The fact that I'm sitting here in front of you, I should be dead. Like there is no reason why I should be sitting here and talking to you and Claire. Like there's just not. That is why I believe in God and a higher being, because of everything that happened to me. I'm like, no one can survive that without a higher being, which to me is Jesus. You know what I mean?
I mean, Trump secured that southern border, and now with Biden, or this version of Biden being in, he's opened it up and it's hemorrhaging people.
Wait, Trump started building the wall. The wall, Biden stopped the building of the wall. And if you look at the borders in America and Canada and everything, Canada has a wall, right? For Americans not to get in. Why are we not having a wall? The wall had nothing to do about people coming in and seeking asylum, because you can come in and seek asylum, but there's a very small percentage that come into America that are seeking asylum. It's usually, so Biden stopped the wall being built. So half of it's built, but he stopped it. So now that's where the borders are open and people are just like flooding in, because they're paying the coyotes to come in and paying their cartel tax to the coyote to get in. Because you have to pay the tax to get in. It doesn't matter who you are, trafficker, guns, whatever. They're gonna, you know. So it's crazy.
Transparent, not Biden, and why allowing Biden to shut down policies on the border and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so let me explain.
I mean, that's a whole podcast in itself, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I can tell you the short version of it. There's the United States of America, which turned us into a corporation. We are not, every American got put into this contract when we were born, into the Social Security when they turned us into corporation. We are sovereign Americans. We are free Americans. That's why we fought a war. So we're free Americans. Joe Biden, or the fake Joe Biden, which really, okay, it's not Joe Biden that's signing all this stuff. It is the fake Pelosi and Obama and all of these are the people that are running it, right? Of the bankrupt corporation. Trump is the 19th president right now. It's not been said. People can say I'm crazy and a conspiracy theorist. I don't care. But he also wrote the Second Declaration of Independence. It's out there. It talks about in there the human trafficking, how they use the money for human trafficking. And because the human trafficking right now, it's modern day slavery. Like that's where we need to really come across this modern day slavery. And so that Joe Biden, these people do you think that Trump is really going to trust everyone in the military? No, he's not. So these people think that this person is in power. They have been in their for whatever reason, he is the president of the corporation. So they are obeying the orders of the person of the corporation, because that's who they are serving, the military. I believe that there is a whole separate military, that's the American military, that Trump trusts and is under. So I think that there's two entities right now, is the Trump military, this military that is obeying the Biden orders. And that's where people are confused, but then we're all awake, right? Like people over here say the word woke. I'm like, woke, because you don't know what woke is. Because if you are not awake of what's going on and go see what's going on at the borders, what's going on in Europe, what's going on with the trafficking, what's going on with different things, you can be whatever and you won't get messed with. But in prison here, the pedophiles and the human traffickers. So it is
women and children, or any rape like that, they don't like it.
No,
totally anti it.
Yeah.
Do you know one thing that I cannot stand, and it's a pet gripe with me, is I can't stand injustice. And when I look at the hate that Donald Trump has had, and he has been spearheading this fight against trafficking, and he saved thousands and thousands of, I'm not just going to say children, but people. And the vast majority of people have got no idea, and they believe the mainstream media, and they hate this man, and he's doing amazing work. How does that make you feel?
I mean, I love Trump. You know me, I'm going to tell you a funny story. so pissed off. I was like, no way. And then I started to do my own research. I'm like, everything this man said he was going to do, he's doing in policy and everything, because I am a patriot. I do follow government. People have asked me to run for office here, which I'm like, no, I'm in law school. I need to know the law so I can use it against them, because that's what they've done to us. And so I follow politics very closely. And so I started following him, and I'm like, I'm going to see what he does, you know, because here in America, he had this show, the apprentice show, you know, like he was just this guy, you know, whatever. So I was like, really, we put some actor in the White House? Like, this is so stupid. Then I started following him, and then what he started to talk about human trafficking, modern day slavery, and I was like, this is the only president in my lifetime, and I think probably even ever, that spoke about modern day slavery, maybe since Lincoln, right? Because Lincoln freed the slaves. So talking about actually slavery was Donald Trump, and said, we want to elevate every survivor's voice. We want to free everyone and elevate every survivor's voice. I mean, this man, like, I don't care if you don't like what he says. I don't care if you don't like his mean tweets or whatever. He did do what he was said he was going to do, and God can use anyone, and you don't have to be perfect. Because look at me, look at Claire, look at you. None of us here are perfect. That God used were the ones that they said were a liar. I mean, or as a prostitute or whatever. Those are the people that changed history. And so to me, I'm going to stand up. You all are standing up, and we're like, you know what? I don't need to be perfect, because I don't want the perfect person to change history, because those are the people that are probably either one in their basement, like Sleepy Joe Biden, doing really horrible things where people don't know. Because it's funny, our sin is out there. Our stuff is out there. Our horrible stuff is out there. And we're like, yeah, I did it. I own it. Like, yeah. The people that are like, no, I didn't do this. You're not going to change history. And so Donald Trump, to me, I don't even know how to describe it, because as a survivor and being like trafficked by these people and trafficked by the elite and trafficked by them, I don't know how to describe it, because I got shut down. So I wrote a book about being trafficked. When in 2014, when I wrote my book, I got shut down so hard, and I was scared because people were threatening me. Then God said to me, you need to start speaking out, and you need to start naming names, because that's the only way that people are going to wake up and things are going to change. But I did tell you, it's not an easy road. It's just like Donald Trump says, it is a lonely road you're walking up. It is a very, very lonely road. Very, very lonely road. Very,